Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and we're going to be catching up on some news about Total Warhammer 2. CA has been a little bit quiet as of late, but that doesn't mean there hasn't been a trickle of information that we can catch up on. So the first is going to be this PC Gamer magazine that came out here. The article mostly covers stuff that we've known previously, but they add a little bit more depth here and there. They touch on a couple mechanics. So for instance, for the High Elves, they're talking about how for both the High Elves and the Dark Elves, their navy is very important. But for the High Elves, they're going to use their navy mostly to project kind of trade, and that their trade network is going to be more geared towards, yes, making a profit, but also more importantly, establishing spy networks. And they say in the article that there's going to be an emphasis on spying and awareness for the High Elves. So perhaps a bit more isolationist, but then projecting force out and kind of keeping tabs on how everyone is doing, which makes sense with the new Vortex mechanic, which, you know, presumably everyone's going to be, half the people are going to be trying to keep it up, the other half are going to try and take it down, and it's up to you to keep tabs on kind of how far along is everyone to achieving their ends. So the High Elves there, I presume their rituals and whatnot are going to be having to do with maybe undoing the efforts of others or keeping tabs on them, but more importantly just sustaining it. So a little bit of discussion there. Then they speak real briefly about the Dark Elves, not telling us too much, but mostly reinforcing that in the lore they are going to be these what they call bondage torture pirates, as a kind of a summary of what they are. But here they talk about the Dark Elves' love of piracy, and this is something we knew before. They say that or CA says that raiding and pillaging will feature rather prominently. So not too much being shown there, although obviously if we take this to the logical conclusion plus add in the lore, it means that obviously raiding is going to be very important. And I think not just for getting, you know, passive income, but mostly for what I presumably will imagine is a new source of kind of funds or resources, which is going to be slaves. So that's what I assume that campaign mechanic is going to be built around, where you go and have to raid and pillage and you capture prisoners to have as slaves, and you can use those to kind of gain the renown of your lord, or perhaps you can use them for set ritual sacrifices, or maybe you even need to get a certain number of war captives in order to unlock a ritual to take down eventually the vortex. So that's all they talk about there. They do mention that obviously the navy for both of those factions is going to be very important, but of course without battles they're going to have to come up with new creative ways to keep it interesting. So that's about it for those two factions. And then next they touch upon the Lizardmen. So for this one, it's kind of interesting. They do confirm that the Geomantic Web is going to be a feature on the campaign map. So if you don't know, that is a kind of web of energies that links a bunch of different sites across the world. It was originally established, I believe, by the Old Ones, which are kind of the space traveling creators of the Warhammer world. And yeah, they set up this network of different sites. They're interlinked across with this Geomantic Web, and the Old Ones were able to kind of use this big network to channel energy and do a lot of stuff. Now in the modern times, I guess the Lizardmen, like the Slan priests, they can call upon this energy and use it to kind of communicate amongst themselves and power up some of their engines. So presumably this is going to play a big role, and here they talk a little bit about the mechanics. They say that this Geomantic Web is something that only the Lizardmen are going to be able to see. And so what it means is you're going to see as Lizardmen links and connections between sites. And so when you're expanding, you're going to want to obviously expand along these invisible routes. They do say for the other races, it's going to seem like you're expanding rather randomly because they can't see the paths. But for the Lizardmen, it's going to kind of focus you around getting to key areas. And I assume a lot of the stages of the rituals and whatnot built around buffing up the vortex is going to have to do with powering up your society. Perhaps technology might be tied into this, where you can't unlock a certain technology or maybe even building level until, for instance, let's say your city is connected to, maybe that's how they'll work out the tiers of a city. So, you know, tier 1 means you're just standing by yourself. To get to tier 2, maybe you need one connection to another city in this Geomantic Web. And to get to tier 5, maybe you need it like fully powered up by having it connected to multiple adjacent cities. And that might just break, instead of just the province system, which is kind of regional areas, maybe it'll be a Geomantic Web system of provinces. But that would be different because, no, okay, so there's going to be both, because the province system is, regardless of the race, certain settlements fall within a province. So I guess kind of layered on top of that, you'll be seeing the Geomantic Web, which might be its own kind of additional feature for the Lizardmen. So that's kind of all they revealed in this article. The rest is stuff we've already known about. They mentioned briefly that there's the free DLC coming after Warhammer 2 comes out, talking about, obviously merging the old world and Lustria together, and they say that's going to be available shortly after release, and that there's going to be slightly tweaked mechanics, but all of that we already knew. So now we can progress on to some of the other content. And this is going to be a series of concept art images that CA has been releasing on Twitter, kind of like a drip feed. So they did release a couple for the Lizardmen. The first is going to be a image or some concept art of Lord Mazdamundi. So he was obviously confirmed in the trailer to be one of the 2 legendary lords. The second piece of art, shows Krokgar, and if they're releasing this, then he's obviously confirmed, and that means he's going to be the second legendary lord for the Lizardmen. So that was rather obvious, and yeah, he's here with Grimlock, his gigantic angry Carnosaur, looking freaking glorious. So yeah, those 2 legendary lords now presumably confirmed. So the Lizardmen are locked in. A lot more, in the future, presumably for DLC and whatnot. There's so many more lords to choose from, but those 2 are confirmed as the first. Then after that, they did show some temple guards, which are Saurus models, which protect the Slann Mage Priest, and these guys are super tanky. Ornate halberds, great anti-large weapons, and things of that nature. So they show a little bit of art, again confirming more units that we were pretty much anticipating. The next one is going to be a Bastillodon, so they show him here, and this one has 2 variants. It has the Solar Engine, which has a big laser beam, or the Arc of Sotek, which shoots out snakes. So in this image, they're confirming the first one, the Solar Engine variant, but it is theorized that there's going to be the second variant. So yeah, that's all but confirmed. And again, the artwork looks fantastic. Can't wait for these guys. Next, they have a couple different images of the Dark Elves. The first one is going to be showing Malekith, the Witch King of Naggaroth. So he was all but confirmed. They haven't really shown any teasers of what the next Legendary Lord could be, but they did show a couple other models. So the Witch Elves here, they show them. These are kind of iconic for the Dark Elves, showing kind of scantily clad ladies with huge daggers and lots of sharp weapons and armor. So that's that. And then next, there's a little bit of artwork with the Cold One mount, and these are going to be very iconic mounts for the Dark Elves. That's about it for those guys. Then after that, they've started to leak out some High Elf units. You can see the Silver Helms here in front of you. So these are knights that we didn't see in the trailer, but traditionally are going to be lance cavalry with heavy armor and very high morale. They have lots of variants of the shields shown down there, and they look very regal, as would be expected. And then finally, they show a High Elf princess concept art. So she's there with her bow, lots of armor, and yeah, obviously the High Elves are going to function kind of like the other elves that we've seen before, where it seems like their heroes are going to be balancing some mage, but a lot of them going to be either ranged or melee units. So the High Elf princess confirmed to be one of them, and in her battle armor she looks freaking fantastic. So that's it for the game's, the PC Gamer article and all the various little images that they've dripped and drabbed shown us. Do expect more news coming around shortly, but that's it for now. So hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for more info in the future. See ya.